Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is Mindset Reset Monday. It is Mindset Reset Monday, and we are back for another conversation in this series, Seizing Control of Your Life Choices with a Plan. With a plan. Okay. And so last week we talked about prioritizing our values. So this week we're going to talk about laws, universal laws. I was we're gonna talk about universal laws, all right? So listen, stop living in vague hope and really start aligning in universal truths. Okay. So today we're talking about the law of belief, you guys. The law of belief. I'm excited about this session because listen, the law of belief says you don't get what you want, you get what you believe. All right. Today's title is You Can't Walk a Vision You Haven't Written. So I gotta ask you, what belief? I have to ask you this, what belief have you outgrown but haven't replaced it yet? Listen, I used to believe what, but now I'm ready to believe what? Okay, let's normalize the process of really evolving our internal narrative. All right, let's normalize this process of really evolving our internal narrative. Why? Why? Because I know what it feels like to have a vision in your spirit, right? To have this vision in your spirit, but not in your hands. I've seen many women and men dim their vision to fit their belief systems. So today is about alignment. If your belief doesn't match your blueprint, the vision will always feel heavy, all right, delayed or unreachable. But when you start with belief, vision, right? Vision is inevitable, all right? When you start with belief, your vision is inevitable, you guys. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to subscribe, right? Subscribe to the YouTube channel at I Am Shaping Solutions, right? We want to get those subscribers up. If you subscribe to that, you will get a notification, right, of the life lessons when they post. To be a part of our community, make sure you join that Facebook community at Elevate in Life with SheilaLittle.com. Elevate in Life with Sheila Little, right? Our goal there is to grow that membership as well. Okay. All right. So let's get into our disclaimer. All right. Disclaimer this morning. This session is designed to really help you reflect on your stories, on the stories you believe about what's possible. But belief shifting doesn't end at insight. Okay. The work must move from your mind to your heart to your habits. All right. Healing isn't about having the right mindset, you guys. It's about acting from an aligned one. It's about acting from an aligned one. So, good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be here. We're on Mindset Reset Monday. Mindset Reset Monday. And I want to welcome you back to Life Lessons with Dr. Sheila Little. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Sheila Little, right? Life Lessons is a part of the Project Life Initiative where we turn theory into practice. We see so much theory on social media. We see all the things that we should do, supposed to do, how to do, right? And so I wanted to create a container where we take that theory and we make it applicable to who you are as an individual. All right. So today we're starting this week off with clarity, really calling out the stories that quietly shape what we believe and what's possible. Okay. What we believe and what's possible. All right. So let's get present in our bodies. Right. Let's get present in our bodies and let's breathe in. Breathe in this new belief. And let's breathe out anything that's not aligned with it. All right. Let's breathe in again. Just getting present. We've already handled what we should handle in our person, right? And now we're coming together as a community to have a great conversation, you guys. Let's feel our feet on the floor, our legs, right? Our thighs, just filling our bodies up, okay? Our torso, our stomachs, all of our organs, just making sure we're present and we recognize everything about us as a community. All right. Our chest, our arms, our hands, just filling ourselves up. Okay. Our necks, filling our lips and our noses and our eyes. in our ears, right? Just really getting present and then feeling the space around us, using our skin, which is our largest organ, right? To really feel that space around us. All right. So we know that this series is all about seizing control of your life choices, right? With the plan. And like I said, last week we talked about the P in plan, which was prioritizing your values. I really hope that that conversation was enlightening and really helped you to move from, if you didn't know your values, really got you curious enough to really start thinking about what it is that I value so that I can take control of this thing called life, right? And today we're talking about laws. And I know on Friday I said we were going to talk about lists, right? We was going to make the L list. Well, we're still talking about goals, right? We're still talking about goals and vision, but something came up in my spirit to really talk about laws, these universal laws, because I think that when we create goals, life is about aligning, right? It's about flow. And if you ever heard this analogy about, the river is going one way, right? It flows one way. And a lot of us are going against the river, right? Which makes it just that much tougher because you're going against the current, right? But if we can really start to plan, right, seize control of our life with a plan, in our plan, and we start to really think about our goals and our visions, right? And we align those goals and visions with universal truths, right? With universal truths, then that's alignment in itself. And that's the type of alignment when we really start talking about manifesting our life and, and getting what we want. It's really that we're like getting into or tucking ourselves into what already exists in nature, right? What God has already designed. And how do I, shift from this conditioned way of being, which is survival, to really this universal way of being, which is true alignment. Okay. So what I want you to do is drop a word in the chat that describes your current belief about your future. What is your current belief about your future? All right. My current belief about my future is the only thing that's coming up is like big, right? Big, right? And I can say this, it took me a minute to step into the greatness, right? Um, if you guys downloaded the book, The Dream That Broke Me Down and Stand Me Up, I wrote that book because there was a dream that I had that truly broke me down to really stand me up. But a part of that book was about this me stepping out of just being average, right? Being average to really stepping into like my greatness, right? And it was this dream that was bigger than me, right? And it broke down every belief, every part of me, right? To really stand me up in this woman that I'm becoming, today. All right. So we're talking about these universal laws. Who is this session for today? Listen, this session for you, if you say you have a dream, but secretly doubt you'll ever live in it. If you secretly doubt that you'll ever live in it, you've been waiting for permission to believe again. Okay, you've been waiting for permission to believe again, and you've been shrinking your goals to really match your fears instead of your faith. Okay, this is for you if your spirit wants more, but your story has kept you playing small. Your story has kept you playing small, you guys. I love talking about universal laws. It's not a woo-woo kind of conversation. I mean, like I said, this session is for you if you fall into these areas, because I do think that people perish from the lack of knowledge. So one of the things about life lessons is to truly challenge a lot of your beliefs. A lot of what you believe, what you've heard, what you've thought, right? And it's this kind of courageous step for me because these are conversations that have a lot of political and some people could say demonic, some people would say political, right? A lot of that is the the territory that these life lessons are going into, only to provide clarity and freedom, right? To really, for us to embrace, right, this wholeness of who we are, the wholeness of who we are. So this week we're talking about laws. If you're interested in that, stay with us because I do think that you will learn. If you feel some resistance, right, like, oh, I want to talk about that woo stuff, stay. Because remember, the mind doesn't want to change. And it could be something within this narrative or this week that really clicks for you, right? So even if it's not for you, stay, and maybe you can offer it to a friend. All right. So here's our powerful quote: You don't get what you want, you get what you believe. I always say, you don't get what you want, you get who you are. But this one is like, you don't get really what you want, you get what you believe, right? Here's what's important to know about this session, right? So it can fully land in your heart. Your story is your blueprint. And most people are building from a false one, right? Most people are building from a false story. Okay. You may say that you want success. You may say you want love. You may say you want peace. You may say you want freedom. But deep down, right, you've been conditioned by stories that sound like that kind of life isn't for people like me, right? If I dream too big, I'll only be disappointed, right? Stability is safer than purpose, right? I'm not qualified. I'm just getting by, right? These subtle stories, they it's kind of like my shirt, right? You don't see all of the little fine stitches, right? You just see one big cloth. But know that you are the one big cloth that's put woven together by all of these small little stories that create a big impact, right? So truly this session really invites you to integrate your inner story that you've been believing, right? Because if your belief is not rooted in truth, you guys, the vision that you want for your life, it won't grow. All right. All right. So look, the law of belief says you don't get what you want, you get what you believe. You don't get what you want, you get what you believe. This is the energetic foundation for vision work. All right. I know that we do vision boards, but a vision board won't work if your beliefs contradict what's on it. All right. If your belief contradicts what's on it. So this session really challenges the invisible ceiling of your story, of the story that you created. It's not about motivation. It's really about reprogramming what you think you're you're allowed to expect from life. I want to say that again. This session is not about motivation. It's about reprogramming what you think you're allowed to expect from this thing called life. All right. Because listen, your story, it is your blueprint. Okay. But what if the stories was shaped in survival? All right. Which is the invisible ceiling, right? If a lot of us, our stories were shaped in survival. Okay, I want to walk through that because I think that when you can see that, oh, my story, this unconscious thing, because I do think that when we start to heal and grow, we're looking for where did that happen or where did I get that from? And like I said, sometimes it's these subtle things that has created our narrative. And if this fits for you, I want you to engage me. Put a heart in the chat. Put a one in the chat. Okay, so people are building a false story in an invisible ceiling, and we don't even know it. Okay. Many of those stories were inherited in order for you to survive. And that's why we have to give ourselves grace. That's why we have to give ourselves um, so much love and support and become our best friend because a lot of this was inherited through survival. Survival what? The first thing we were surviving was race and social oppression. All right. This story under this could be that kind of life isn't for people like me. Okay. Isn't just that just isn't a limiting belief, you guys. It's a reflection of generational exclusion. All right. That type of life just isn't for me. Listen, from redefining, from oh, my bad, from redlining to school pushouts, from healthcare disparities to criminal justice gaps, right? Many of us have seen a lot of this, right? But we have never seen people Many of us have never seen people really living lives of peace, of overflow, right? Vision led leadership, healthy relationships, right? A lot of us have not seen that, and we don't know how that's shaping what we can do. All right. So the stories become I can dream, but not too loud, right? Another story is I have to fight twice as hard to get half as much. All right. So this session really creates a space to ask what part of my belief system was passed down as a survival mechanism in a racist world, right? In an oppressed situation, right? Right. And just from survival. And what part of me is ready to dream beyond that? Beyond that. All right. There's something called cultural dissimilance, right? A big part of my dissertation is on cultural dissimilance. What is cultural dissimilance? Cultural dissimilance is the practice of hiding, and this is for Black women, all right? This was the practice of hiding emotions, desires, and vulnerability to protect oneself from racialized stereotypes, all right? So essentially, what Black women had to do was really hide their emotions, their desires, and their vulnerabilities to protect themselves. So they would say, I'm okay, when we really wasn't okay, right? And a lot of us are doing that today, all right? Even though that was created back in slavery, this cultural dissimilance, there's a whole research done on it. A lot of us still have this mindset, right? Or this belief of hiding our emotions, our true desires, the and not being vulnerable to really protect ourselves, right? Before it was for racialized stereotypes. Now it's for societal pressures and other things. Listen, this creates a belief that sounds like I have to hold it together at all costs, right? I can't let anyone know I'm struggling, right? My needs come last if I want to be safe, respected, or even taken seriously, right? These are the type of beliefs that were created in us from this thing called cultural dissimilance, right? What gets buried in that is your desire, your belief, and your vision. And that's why you may feel numb. That's why you may be feeling stuck or even overly practical. You guys, listen, this is a trauma response. This is a trauma response. And again, I don't want to water down trauma, but I want you to know that it's a response to what? Not feeling safe. I didn't feel safe enough to share my feelings. I didn't feel safe enough to, share my desires. I didn't feel safe enough to have a desire, right? And that built up a protective mode, which became your trauma response. Listen, this session really offers permission for you to break that generational silence and say, I want more, I deserve softness, and I believe there's room for my full truth. All right. If that resonate with you, put a heart in the chat for me. Good morning, brother. Good morning, brother. Right. If that resonated with you, put a heart in the chat. All right. Listen, poverty and scarcity programming. Here's another one of those invisible ceilings that is creating, right, um, uh, a story that is in direct contradiction of our vision and our goals. All right. Listen, stability is safer than purpose. Money doesn't come easy. We've heard this. Money don't grow on trees. Money don't come easy, right? Don't ask for too much. You might lose it, right? So these stories, oh, you don't always get what you want, you get what you need, right? That song has been in my head all morning, right? I think that is a big one. Put a one in the chat if you don't always get what you want. You get what you need. Guess what? And a lot of us are literally today living off what we need. And when we start talking about what we want, guess what we start to do? We start to shrink, right? We start to rationalize logically, right? Because and people will say, well, is that what you want, or is that what you need, right? And if you grew up in an environment where you didn't always get what you wanted, you get what you needed, guess what you focused on now? What you need. Guess what that mindset is? Very survival, right? But you desire what? Thriving in life. Okay. Listen, many people raised in poverty or under financial pressures, vision, having a vision for your life has often been a luxury, right? You wasn't taught to believe in abundance. You were taught to really budget your belief, right? Budget your belief. Your money story, you guys, is the longest story that has been with you your entire life. That your relationship with money is the longest relationship that you've probably been in. Because when you were born, guess what your parents was thinking about? Money. How I'm gonna take care of them, right? How I'm gonna feed them, how I'm gonna get the diapers, how I'm gonna get the milk, right? Uh anything that had to do with taking care of you was equated to some resource, right? And as you grew up, you collected those beliefs unconsciously. What can I get? What can I get? Right? And it all spilled around your money story. And money stories are so important, right? Because they are deeply rooted belief systems. All right. So now even with opportunity, you may sabotage, right? You may sabotage because struggle feels more familiar than success, right? You may sabotage because struggling feels more familiar than success. So this session, right, is really it's really here for you to name the truth, right, with compassion. You're not sabotaging because you're afraid of failure, right? You're afraid of what success may cost you. All right. You're not sabotaging because you're afraid of failing, you guys. You may be sabotaging because you're afraid of what success may actually cost you. Right. And again, what is that cost? We talked about opportunity cost. What is that cost? It may cost me, and again, we survival mode is us against them. So if I choose me, then I may not be able to be in this relationship anymore. If I choose me, right, we become very much, when we start to shift, we become very much torn, right? And so we won't make the decision, or we won't take the opportunity cost because of what we think it may cost us. And I have to say think, because that is a survival mechanism, because it may not cost you that, right? It will cost you your presence. It will cost you your time, right? It will cost you to become responsible and do some work. But the other things that you may think that it's going to cost you, it may not even cost you those things, right? And so we have to step into our truth long enough, right? And really face this long enough. All right. So what if safety isn't in staying small, but in trusting the overflow that is your new normal, right? What if safety isn't staying small, you guys, but it's in trusting the overflow of your new normal? I want you to ask yourself that, okay? Another one of these invisible ceilings that we face is patriarchal and gender expectations. This is big, especially for women, and especially for Black women or women of color, right? Because we have a belief that you hold the family together. And listen, there's a big conversation about women who are like going out and trying to have it all, be the mom, be the worker, be the breadwinner, right? And and you have to hold the family together. And so when I started to dream about the life I want, that's where the conflict could come in, right? Don't outshine the man, right? Here's another one of those beliefs that can come in and rob you silently of your dreams, because I don't want to outshine my man. I always tell women, you're a woman. You are a woman. All right. Genetically, in every facet. There's no way you can be a man, right? And I think we have to have a conversation about what does that mean when a man says that you're trying to be the man, right? Are you saying in these roles? I think that we have to have a conversation to really start to break up that conversation, because as a woman, I can never be a man. Now, what I can do as a woman is live in the fullness that I was created to be, right? In my fullness. Now, in my fullness, if that makes you as a man feel a way, we can have a conversation about that. But please know that I'm not trying to outshine you as a man. I'm just trying to what? Not even trying. I am just living the fullness of who I was created to be. And I encourage you to do the same, because when you as a man start to live in the fullness that you were created to be, guess what? We gonna work phenomenal together. We're gonna do exactly what we were created to do. And we do have this kind of internal conflict between men and female about these gender expectations and what it means to be woman and what it means to be man. But let's talk about what it means to be human, right? What it means to be human means that we are all given a birthright to live in our fullest capacity. All right, in our fullest capacity. So my fullness as a woman, I don't care how full I get, I will never be a man. And guess what? Your fullness as a man, you will never outshine me as a woman. But together, we can create a powerful force for our families, for our community, and all of those things. And it's okay that me rising up brings something up in you for either gender, right? But let's talk about that so that we can get safe in us growing, right? In us growing together. One of these other narratives is, I want somebody who's with me at my lowest point, right? If you can't be with me at my lowest point, then, I don't know. I don't know if we could be together. But what about if you could be with me in my highest best self? Can we have that conversation? Can you be with me in the greatness that God created me to be? Right? Can you still feel confident in the person that God created you to be when I'm being all of the person that God created me to be? Let's have that conversation because I think a lot of us are not even like reaching our full potential because we have this grit type of mentality that I'm gonna be with him at his lowest. I'm that down chick that when you got $5, I'm still gonna love you. Well, that's very conditional anyway. I'm gonna love you because of the person that you are. But why not just reach and let's just live our fullest self, right? Let's just be who God created us to be. All right. So I think some more conversations definitely have to happen around that. And then another one for women is be strong, be quiet, and be grateful. Right. So if my dream and my vision is in any way um contradicting that, it's going to cause some cognitive dissonance, right? And so I may step away from my vision of myself in my dream, right? Because I was taught to be strong, be quiet, and be grateful. All right. And a lot of us are stuck in positions. We want to move forward, but am I not being grateful because I have this deep desire in me to want more, to have more, to be loved more, to be seen more, to be accepted. And men may have this too, right? And I am doing better than a lot of people, but I want more. Am I not being grateful? Oh, you're being very grateful, and you're also being human, and you're feeling the appetite, right? But here's what these narratives create. They create a deep performance based belief. All right, and that belief is I'm valuable when I'm useful, not when I'm resting, not when I'm dreaming, and not when I'm in receptive mode, which means that I can't really set in my feminine because that's what receptive mode is. I can't be feminine. I have to be masculine, doing stuff and performing and showing up for people in such a way to even be deemed adequate. All right. And so this session is really here to challenge that lie, right? And offer a new narrative, right? You are allowed to have a vision that's for you, not just for everyone else you carry. Okay. You are allowed to have a vision that is just for you, not just for everyone else you carry. Because again, we talked about purpose last week. We have so many purposes, and sometimes this vision that we want is not even vocational. It's not something that you may ever turn into a job or a career or a income producing asset, but it's something that you need to be doing to really feed a part of yourself, to activate a part of yourself so that you can feel in your fullness as an individual. All right. All right. So why does this matter? Why does this matter? Because the law of belief doesn't exist in a vacuum. Okay. The law of belief doesn't exist in a vacuum. It has to be taught in a way, right? It has to be taught and understood in a way that that is socially conscious, right? That is spiritually liberating, right? And that also integrates the trauma that you've experienced. All right. So here's my thing. I'm not just teaching you to believe bigger. With that being said, I'm not teaching you to just to dream bigger. I'm really helping you unlearn the oppression, right? The oppression that has told you that you can't when you really can. All right. And again, I'm using oppression and I'm talking about these stereotypes. I'm talking about these social conditions, because I think when we're walking in life, sometimes we're only thinking about the individual that hurt our feelings, right? Our moms, our dads, right? These very much first row individuals that has affected our life, and not really the communities that even shaped how they showed up in their life, that's currently shaping how you're showing up in your life, and that will shape how your kids show up. All right. And these are conditions that came before us, right? And will probably continue to be a part woven into societal's thread, right? But we can step out and align with something bigger than us, this universal law of belief, right? And start to shift and really rewrite our narrative, right? Because clarity isn't isn't truly the first step, right? We have to own it. There's an ownership, right? Right? If you can't speak it, you can't walk it. Okay. If you can't speak it, you can't walk it. So although clarity is important, we have to own we have to own our story. We have to start to rewrite as adults, right? As adults, we have to truly step into our purpose and really start to own who we are. When we own who we are, then we get the clarity about what we need. All right. All right. So here's the invitation. Get your vision out of your head, right? Write it, name it, say it out loud, right? Because even if it's imperfect or evolving, putting language, right? Putting language to your longing, putting language to your desire is really the first step in acting of this belief, right? Vision without writing is just a wish, right? Vision without writing is just a wish, and a wish has no weight until it's written with intention, you guys. And a lot of you don't even know, a lot of you guys don't even know what beliefs may even get triggered because you haven't sat down and you haven't wrote the vision and made it plain, right? Just take out a piece of paper and say, if I could live the life I wanted, what would that life be? Start to write it. And I guarantee you're going to have a critic or a voice that come up in your head and say, well, you know, you can't do that because, or you know, this because, right? And I want you to really listen to that, because the reason you don't have probably what you have wrote is because that narrator, that voice, that is the belief system that is creating the experiences that you're having right now. And that is called self discovery. When I write this down, and a lot of us are journaling, but guess what we're journaling about? The woes of our life. You know, I'm stuck, I feel this way. You know, we're journaling from a very, it's in the present, but it's based on past, right? What happened to me today? How did I feel about what happened to me today? What I'm is suggesting, this isn't about a journaling. This is about a mindset shift. All right. It's about identifying your old beliefs, right? That's blocking your clarity. It's about reconnecting the vision to yourself, right? That still knows what you want. Okay. And it's about reclaiming your power to really speak vision into form. Okay. So there's the journaling that I'm just journaling every day about what my day was like, about what has happened. I'm actually answering questions. But have you wrote a vision for your life? Have you sat down, took out a sheet of paper and said, what type of relationship do I want in my life? What type of income do I want to have in my life? Right. And really throw, in a sense, like throw this boomerang out just as far as you can launch it. Right. Right. And see what comes up in you in that space, from your present person to the future person that you're becoming. Right. And then that is when you will start to join things like Project Life and get a therapist, because you will start to hear all of that bubble up, or you will start to feel it, or you will start to see yourself minimize. like, oh, well, maybe I do want that type of car, but my income right now. And this is how you start to, when you start to reduce like that, that is where the law of belief, we have to start to align with that. Okay. All right. Because faith plus vision is momentum, right? But only if your story shifts, you guys, but only if your story shifts. God can't bless the mass. God cannot bless the mass. The law of belief isn't activated by fantasy. It's activated by your truth. All right. And there is a truth inside of you right now, right? That you want to live, that you want to experience, that you have yet to speak, to write, and even discuss because you have judged it, right? Because you have judged it in some way unattainable, right? Not for you. It's too late, right? You have judged it as that. And now that truth is somewhere buried deep, 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 deep down inside of you. And what are you doing? You're performing. And that itself is a misaligned. You're misaligned, right? And so now you're trying to manifest from, I'm going to say, I'm gonna say this softly, from the facade you, or from the life you've created, right, as a consequence of your limiting belief, of this invisible ceiling, of you know the systematic barriers, because of the trauma response. You have created a life, and you may be very successful in that life, right, on the outside, but it may be weighing you down on the inside, and you may be grieving this truth that you have yet to speak. And today, and all this week, I want to introduce these universal beliefs because, hey, let's just speak it. Let's just bring it to life, right? We don't have to do that tomorrow, right? We got the rest of your life to get there or figure out, even if that's what you want. But the thing about it is that we have to start getting honest, right? And a lot of us are not being honest about what we want because of our current condition. If I want to be loved, and but I'm in a currently in a loveless relationship, then I may and I may feel like, well, if I want love, and I'm thinking about this love that I want to experience in a relationship. I know that I've been in this relationship now for 10 years, and it's not the type of love that I want to experience, right? But I don't want to leave this relationship, so I'm gonna take this love that I feel like I always desire, and I'm gonna tuck it somewhere deep inside of me. Okay, right? And I'm going to survive in this relationship. Now I may encourage my mate, and I may snap at my mate, and I may nag at my mate, and I may talk about all the things that we have not done, and why we may be arguing every day. But the truth of the matter is, all of that is kind of like the branches on the tree, right? But the root of this nagging, the root of this is dis-ease, the root of this argument is because I want something that in I feel like I've settled in accepting this relationship. Now I'm gonna say this relationship could be with the mate, this relationship could be in the car you drive. This relationship could be with your finances. This relationship could be with the career that you chose. Whatever that relationship is, I wanted something different. I've tucked that in, and I'm surviving in this. And now there's this resentment. If that makes sense, put a heart in the chat. All right. Because, and here's the thing, me revealing this truth, it doesn't always have to change this external thing, but me revealing it will change me and how I respond to this external thing, and how I show up in this external thing, right? And here's the truth. A rising tide lifts all boats. And when I start to live in my truth, and then we can go back to the Marianne Williamson uh, quote that says, when I start to allow my light to shine, then I unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. Guess what? That's work. And it may be emotionally uncomfortable, and it may be even a vulnerable place to be. But I'm telling you that you're safe in doing that. It's safe for you to do that. Okay. It's safe for you to do that. Listen, a client once told me, I knew what I wanted. I knew I wanted to start my own coaching business, but I kept saying I needed more certificates, right? I finally realized that that was just a disguise in preparation. I didn't believe I was worthy of building until someone else validated me. She had the vision, okay? She had the vision, but the belief story said, you're not ready, right? Once she rewrote her story, right, she launched her offer in 6 weeks and it sold out, you guys, in 4 days. Because when belief aligns with vision, momentum will flow. All right, right. A lot of us are hiding a truth in us, and we're not aligned in this universal belief. What I believe I can do, um, or a lot of us are living this belief, this universal belief, this law of belief, right? We have beliefs are that that are very limited. We have beliefs that are very that's very survival based, right? And we're wondering, why can't I produce, or why can't I have the thing that I deeply desire? Well, you're actually living a belief system, and until you can unpack the belief that you have about the life you actually want, right? Then you won't move. Nothing's going to change. So we have to unpack, well, what is this life you really want? What do you believe about that? Right? And start working to rewrite that story, right? Because you're currently living your belief. Okay? So I want you to pause and I want you to ask yourself, what belief is still shaping what I think is possible for me? Right? Is that belief mine or one that I inherited? One that I inherited, right? Because I want you to think about what part of your belief system was built in survival, right? What would you believe if, like, racism, patriarchy, or poverty haven't really shaped your story, right? And I want you to understand that those conditions have shaped how you see yourself, right? What vision, right, would you write if you knew your ancestors was cheering you on, right? And then what permission are you giving yourself today, right? That no one else have gave you, right? What permission are you willing to give yourself that no one else have gave you? All right. The law of belief says you don't get what you want, you get what you believe. Your belief system is like your spiritual GPS, you guys. It's your internal setting it's your internal settings. If your internal settings are programmed for bare minimum, right, or not enough, your life will keep cycling those same blocks, even when your vision is calling you higher, right? Even what that means is, like, if you want if you're an intimate romantic person, but you don't believe you can trust in intimacy and romance, is the foundation of that is love and trust. Okay, love and trust. But you have a belief system that you can't trust nobody, right? Then this desire that you want to be in a intimate relationship, and again, intimate relationship could be with a friend, a best friend that you can carry with you, and y'all can you know be vulnerable together, a mate, right? If you have a belief that you can't trust people, your desire for friendships, your desire for relationships, they're not going to come to pass, because the law of belief says you get what you believe, and you believe you can't trust people, and guess what you're doing? Attracting people you can't trust. Although you're crying at night and you're asking why, I'm a good person, why can't I get friends who see me, why can I you know uh get men who love me, why can't I be with a woman who sees me and respects me for the man that I am? Because you don't believe it's possible. And listen to your language. You're not speaking that way. You're speaking that you can't trust women. They trying to get you for all you got. You're speaking that you can't trust men. They're cheaters. They're liars. Right? So you're speaking your belief, but but your desire is something totally different. And if you want this desire to happen, then you have to, right? You have to update that, right? So that then light can start to show you the people that you can trust. Because trust me, there are people in this world that you can trust. There are. They are. They are there, right? And how do I know? Because you believe you're one of them. You believe that you are a person that's trustworthy? Don't you? Don't you? Yes, you do. And I'm gonna tell you this: God is not. Miss Jackie said that's the law of attraction. Yes, it is. Right? That is the exact law of attraction. If you believe that you're a person that can be trusted, then I'm gonna tell you, God didn't only make one. He didn't only make you, right? So that must mean that there's other people out there who are trustworthy. He didn't make you the only loyal person in the world, right? But the ego will come in, the inner critic will come in and try to separate you and make you feel like you're the different one. You're the only loyal person. You're the only lovable person. You're the only kind person in the world out of 6 billion people. No, that's not true, right? It is people you can trust, right? Miss Jackie said it's like the law of gravity. Yes, and we're going to talk about those who lost this week, Miss Jackie. Yes, it's like the law of gravity, right? But if we don't really dig deep and see what am I believing, and again, this is why I'm talking about writing it out, because when I start to write, I start to hear and I start to narrate to myself, and then I start to see where my gaps are, right? And I get present enough to really hear the reflection that's coming up as I'm writing this story of the life that I want for myself, right? So now when I go to a therapist, I can say, you know what, um, I really want to fall in love, again. And as I was writing that out, I got scared. So I really want to work on this belief around fear, right? That's the clarity. I want to make a 7 figures, but I realized that, as I was writing down what I wanted to do, I started to feel nervous and scared. I want to talk about that, right? This the clarity, owning the vision, being vulnerable enough to ask for the help and assistance so we can close the gap, you guys, close the gap. All right. When you believe differently, you show up differently. All right. You don't ask for permission, you stop performing, and you start walking like the outcome is already aligned, you guys. My client said to me, once I started writing my visions down, I stopped questioning it. It became real because I had language. Neuroscience shows that written goals increase achievement by 42%, you guys. Belief is centered when the brain sees something tangible and it becomes a signal that you're serious, all right? You can't walk what you haven't written. You can't walk what you haven't written, okay? You can't build what you don't believe. And a lot of us, right, are living somebody else's vision. Somebody else sit down and they wrote what they wanted for their life, income wise, industry wise, right? Capital in their capital. They wrote that and they said, who do we need? And then they hired you, right? You were a part of their vision and they brought you in and you are fulfilling a vision that somebody else wrote. Now, that's on a very macro level. On a micro level, we have the power to do that too, right? You can write your life. What do you want, right? And then every day, we're working on that. Every moment, we're working on becoming that, all right? If that makes sense, put a heart in the chat for me. All right. So we know the S and stop it is for stories, right? The beliefs you've internalized are shaping your life in ways that you don't even realize, right? I want to offer you this. You're not lazy, right? You're leaking beliefs. All right. You're not unmotivated. You're just misaligned. Okay. Again, I want to shift our language. You're not lazy. Okay. You're just leaking beliefs. All right. Right. You lack, you lack a belief system that supports the desires that you have. And guess what? We can update that. All right. You're not unmotivated, right? You're just misaligned. And guess what? We can get back into alignment. All right. Listen, beliefs is not just a mindset, it's emotional safety, right? Before you can change what you believe, you must recognize why. why you believe it in the first place. Most limiting beliefs were born in the moments of emotional survival, you guys, right? You didn't choose to believe that you wasn't worthy of love or worthy of peace or worthy of overflow. It was internalized, right? Love was conditioned in your home, right? Achievement equal acceptance, right? Failure meant rejection, and asking for more, right? Asking for more meant abandonment, right? So here's what I want to remind you: your belief isn't broken, it's a protection mode. It was there to protect you. But what once protected you is now preventing you from leveling up in your life. What once protected you guys is now preventing you from leveling up. And healing begins when you really stop shaming yourself for believing what you want and really start tracing back who taught me that, right? And then updating this, right? There are beliefs that you think are true, but they're just programs, you guys. There are beliefs right now today that you think are true, but they're just programs. So many people are trying to build new versions of themselves, right? Off of old code. Off of old code. I talk about the iPhone. I don't have an iPhone. I am an Android user. Okay. So Android, iPhones, whatever. We have upgraded versions of these phones, right? The upgraded version of these phones, they cannot run on the old program. They cannot run on the old program, right? They had to update the phone to be able to harness and hold the new program. All right. The new program. That is the same with us. The phone in your hand is just a mimic of us, right? And a lot of us are trying to build new versions of ourselves with titles, with degrees, with titles like marriage or uh, um, you know degree titles or positions in positions like professional positions, right? We're trying to build this new version of ourselves, but it's an old code, right? It's from survival mode, which then creates what? Self-sabotage, imposter syndrome, right? Inadequacy, unworthiness, fear, right? Of even stepping into this life that you have created, right? You have some reservations for stepping fully in it, right? Because you're running on an old code. All right. You may think that this is just how life works, right? I'm just being realistic, right? This is just wisdom. But the fact is, it's fear. It's fear dressed up in logic, you guys. So, really, this session is really to help you integrate, right? And interrogate what you have accepted as truth. What you have accepted as truth for who? For you in your life. Because if you don't question it, right, you'll keep building your life based on it. If you don't question it, you'll keep building your life based on it, right? So I need you to really start interrogating who taught me to believe this, right? What happened in my life that really formed this belief? And is this belief still serving who I am becoming? It's okay to investigate. And again, I think being curious about who we are, it doesn't require action right now, you guys. It doesn't require action right now, but your intellect is requiring it. That weight you're feeling, that dis-ease that you're feeling, that apathy, which is kind of a form of depression, right? That stuckness that you're feeling, it's just hungry. And it's like asking yourself, what do I want to eat? You know what I mean? And getting curious about what you want to feed yourself. We don't have to choose a restaurant. In this case, if I'm asking myself what I want to eat, oh, I may want to eat this or this. I don't have to choose, but at least I know what my options are. And a lot of us are not being curious enough about who we are and where did our beliefs come from and why don't we have the life that we deserve. And often, all too often, we're pointing it at people, situations and circumstances, right? To really make us feel like the reason I'm here is because what my mama didn't do, what my daddy didn't do, what society didn't do, what society did do, what my teachers didn't do. But as an adult, I'm gonna tell you, you are responsible, right? And you have the ability to respond and create the life that you want. You do. You have it. All right. The law of belief is activated through repetition and embodiment, right? It isn't enough for you to say, I believe in myself, right? You must live it. You must live it like it's true, even before it feels true, you guys. And this is again why Project Life was created, because a big part when I started out, people's like, what do you do? And I'm like, I remind people of who they was created to be. Right. That was my simple form. What do you do? I just remind people who God created them to be. Right. What does that mean? So I had to really figure out, like, what does that mean? Right. Because it's a Project Life is here to really help you in your unbelief, right? You were created, you have a desire, right? And you have to stand in that like it's true. But just because of life, sometimes it just don't feel true, right? So to live like it's true, even when it doesn't feel true, you may need trainer wheels. You may need supportive people around you. You may need people to to see you as that thing before you actually become that thing that you're believing for. All right? And that's okay. Right? Here's the self-validation. Here's the difference between that. That's interdependence. That's not dependent like, oh, I need Sheila to remind me. That is the person I'm becoming is fragile, right? It's a fragile being. I just planted her, I'm watering her, but I understand uh once she gets introduced to the elements of the earth, right? That there is a high probability that she may not survive. He may not survive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put myself in a container while I transform. Same thing a butterfly does. Put itself in a cocoon, right? I'm gonna put myself in a container while I develop, right? What is that container? I'm gonna put myself in therapy. I'm gonna get myself a coach, or I'm just gonna do Project Life, right? I'm gonna do Project Life, right? I'm gonna get a coach. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna get in communities that can support me and see me, right? As I'm growing, because my current environment has not been able to do that yet. Don't make the environment wrong. It just means that the environment don't have the capacity. All right. And because we know it don't have the capacity, it's okay for me to go and stretch minds. All right. So again, it's not enough to say I believe in myself once. You must live it like it's true, right? Belief is a muscle. You strengthen it by what you do when doubt shows up, when doubt speaks. Okay. All right. That's why writing a vision is powerful, right? It's not just about planning, it's practice. I can go back and I can see that vision. I can look at that vision and I can say, that's where I'm anchored at in this future place that I'm becoming. All right. Your inner beliefs set your inner beliefs set your outer limits, right? So uh this is what brings urgency to you. You cannot walk a vision you haven't written, you guys. But you also can't walk a vision you don't believe you're worthy of. Okay. You also can't write a vision that you don't feel you're worthy of. So many people are stuck, not because they lack talent, not because they lack ability, but because their belief system keeps telling them you're not ready, you're too much, you don't deserve more, right? You always mess up. Why do you think you deserve that? Okay. If you don't deal with these beliefs at the root, right, they will keep repeating the same self-sabotaging cycles, right? Disguise the safety, right? Disguise the safety. All right. Here's what I know. I know that you've been taking action based on beliefs you never questioned, right? And that's when we can give ourselves grace. Before vision can come into focus, we have to address this truth. Most people don't realize that they've been building a life based on assumptions someone else handed them. Someone else handed you the assumptions or the beliefs that you have for yourself. All right. So again, this is where we ask, who told me what success looks like? Where did you learn what success looks like? Right. Who defined what's realistic for you? Or what's realistic? Where did you get that definition from? Right? Who told you what relationships are? Right? What has your beliefs, what has been driving your goals? What paradigm, okay, have been driving your goals? Is it based in fear? Is it based in duty? Is it based in trust? Right? Right. Which one of these paradigms have been really guiding your goals? Because until these questions are answered, right? Vision isn't authentic, you guys. It's inherited. You're living out what somebody gave you. All right. And then the last one, unwritten vision, is really unfocused energy. The law of belief must connect to the law of clarity, you guys. You can't walk what you haven't written because the universe responds to specifics, right? In this case, when I'm talking about universe, I'm talking about the one word, right? It responds to specifics, right? This brain that you have that's always giving you what you're asking for, consciously or subconsciously, right? It responds to specifics. So we have to get very detailed in what we want. All right. Uh, so I have a friend who just purchased a house and we were looking at houses and she said, I want a 4 bedroom. I want this. I want this. I want this. And we was like, holding on to this belief, right? That she could get this house. Guess what? She got the house. She got what she asked for, what she held on to. She didn't accept anything but she got very specific on what she wanted. I want a basement. I want a living space. I want 4 bedrooms because I need this and I need this and I need this, right? She got very specific on her goals, right? So anything else, okay, I look, but that's not it, right? And so she ended up seeing what she wanted. And so she closed on that. All right. So we got to know that unwritten vision is unfocused energy. All right. A belief that stays vague becomes powerless. All right. So when you finally write down your beliefs, right, it's no longer abstract. It becomes actionable. It's no longer safe. It becomes your mirror. And it's no longer private. It becomes sacred. Okay. So when you write it, you claim it. When you believe it, you build it, you guys. When you write it, you claim it. When you believe it, um, you build it. Again, I think that we have this thing about getting clear. I think when we think about clarity, we think about it triggers, it's a trauma response to, you know, what did you do when you were younger? Think about what the times when you had to get clear on something. What did they say? And then what did you say? Right? And then what happened? What did your teacher say? And then you like, well, the teacher said this, but all the time you're thinking, I don't want to get a whooping. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to say the right thing. So when you were being quote unquote interrogated to provide clarity, there was also a level of anxiety building in you that was fear that something bad was going to happen. So you're answering the questions, but you're answering the questions in a way to keep you safe. Guess what that taught you as you grew up? I don't want to provide clarity because the more details I provide, the more I may get in trouble, right? Very subtle, but it happens. But as an adult, it's very important that you get clear, right? And that we get on the same page and that we understand what each other is talking about. And for you yourself, that you're clear on what it is you want. So although clarity may feel a little vulnerable, it may feel a little anxiety producing, it may create this need, this unsafe tendency in you. You safe in providing clarity, right? It's not about being perfect. I heard somebody say perfection equals completion. When you think, oh, it's perfect, that means it's done. All right, it's done. And I thought that was so profound because I think that we're using perfectionism in the beginning of something. Like, I need the perfect answer. I need to do this thing perfect before we're even doing the thing, when perfectionism is truly at the end. It's like after the refinement, after I take the actions, after I get the clarity, after I do discovery and I implement and I change and I do all of that. And then I sit back at the end of it and I can look and say, okay, I did that as perfect as I could. I mastered that, right? In a sense, I've done the steps, I've taken the actions. And a lot of us, we're not seeking the clarity that we want because we want to have the perfect answer right now. And it's like, you're not going to get the perfect answer right now. right? But we do need to get clear about what you do have right now. All right. All right. So let's move into our biblical wisdom. Our biblical wisdom, Proverbs 23:7. All right. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. All right. You are becoming what you believe. You are becoming what you believe, whether consciously or unconsciously. Your beliefs are more prophetic than your plans. Okay? Your beliefs are more prophetic than your plans. Listen, this verse is not about surface level thoughts, it's about this deep inner belief, that's heart level conviction that really shapes who you become. Okay? In this session, you are being you're being invited to really uncover a real story, real stories that you've been living by, because that story has become your identity. Okay. So if you think you're behind, if you think you're unworthy, if you think you're unlovable, if you think or unseen in your own heart, right? You will move in ways that reinforce that belief. You will move in ways that reinforce that belief, even if you're outwardly successful, you guys, right? So this verse really reminds you that what you consistently believe about yourself, because I'm sorry, this verse reminds you that what you consistently believe about yourself becomes what you live as. All right. It's not about wishing, it's about being. All right. And so the God in you can speak. The God, this is how you can speak from your heart. Okay. The God in me, in first person, the God in me isn't waiting for perfection. It's waiting for my permission, right? It's waiting for permission. When I align my inner beliefs with God's truth about who I am, I become a reflection of that truth, right? Not just in theory, but in identity, in energy, and in action. All right. So if you need something to say, you can say this. All right. The God within me isn't waiting for perfection, it's waiting for permission. All right. When I align my inner beliefs with God's truth about who I am, right, I become a reflection of that truth, not in theory, but in identity, energy, and action. All right. Our promise verse, I love this promise verse. It's Matthew 29. It's Matthew 9:29. And it says, according to your faith, let it be done to you. According to your faith, let it be done to you. This is God's response to your belief. When your internal agreement aligns with your divine assignment, manifestation begins. You know, I love the New Testament because I say, like, Jesus just like asked the people, do you believe? You know, like, if you believe you can get off that mountain, yeah, I believe it. Right. If you could believe you can walk, then gonna walk. Right. If you believe this is like a lot of it, if you understood that, he just what held a space for their belief, because what he knew was that there is a powerful connection, there's this powerful belief, this law of belief, that when you believe it becomes a mirror, right? So this verse is a mirror of the law of belief, you guys. It reminds us that God doesn't move based on efforts but on alignment. And what is that alignment? Faith, right? So this session is is taking the vision out of your head and giving it language. It's rewiring your internal story so that it aligns with divine possibility, and it's realizing that what you believe you are allowed to have, what you believe you're allowed to have becomes what you're able to hold, you guys. And if your faith is only big enough to believe in scraps, you will sabotage every feast. All right. If your faith is only big enough to believe in scraps, you guys, you will sabotage every feast. God does not, God does not just bless what we want. He blesses what we're willing to believe is possible. What we're willing to believe is possible. I know that we've been praying, on some stuff. And we have prayed on some stuff that we believed in that was truly out of our control. We have prayed on some things that we believe in that is truly out of our control. What just came up in my spirit is my sister. Many of you know that my sister passed in 2001. No, 2 years ago, three years ago, and she had ALS. Right, she had ALS, and it started in her feet, and and all the time we're praying that God is going to what? He's going to restore her to full health, right? And in the middle of this, it happened for a year. So she got diagnosed like in February. Well, she started to fall like December before, anyway. So what we started to do though as a collective was started to really pray that whatever God's plan was, that he aligned our hearts, that he prepared us for it, right? So my prayer really started to shift to, okay, God, my sister has ALS. She's not able to walk. At this point, she can't move her hands or whatever. Whatever your will is for her life, right? Allow my heart to be able to receive that, right? I have met so many people. I have done therapy services with so many people. I have so many friends who have prayed for God for a specific thing, right? To heal, to grant, to provide. And that thing didn't happen. And when it didn't happen, it it affected them. It affected them in a way that robbed them of their hope, that really affected their relationship with God, right? Because scripture says, according to your faith, let it be done, right? And a lot of these individuals and a lot of you was believing in the thing. I asked, I prayed, we fasted, we done all of this, and God, why did you still take this loved one? I get that. I get that. So with that being said, there is a part of life that we can't control. Being in alignment though in life is also about the things that we can, and really asking for whatever it is that God has for us, for us to be able to receive that, right? And so, although it's very important for us to get clear, Miss Jackie said deeply affected. Yes, deeply affected by it, because we're praying and we're fasting and we're believing, and the thing that we prayed and fast for, it didn't happen, and it affects us, right? And it shapes our belief about what's possible, right? And I get that, and I get that part. Um, so there is an aspect of life that's out of our control. I'm saying that because there's an aspect of life that's out of our control. I'm gonna go back to this story about my sister. So my sister has ALS. Our prayers is like, okay, God heal, because we know that God is a healer. What's coming up in my spirit is, do y'all remember Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Shadrach, Meshach, and give me the names, Miss Jackie. Miss Jackie know the name. All right, they got put in the fire furnace because they wouldn't bow down to this pagan god, and they was believing that God would save them. But you know what they also said? Even if He don't, though, even if He don't save me from your hand, we still not going um to to bend down to you, right? Because they believed in God. They didn't believe that their belief wasn't predicated on what God would do for them, right? Their belief was a part of who they are. They believe in God so much so that they're like, hey, we're not going to bow down to this idol god. And he said, we're gonna throw you in the furnace, see if he's gonna save you out of there. Even if God don't save me out of there, we still not gonna bend down to you. And I think that's the part we miss. That's the part we miss. I'm going to get clear about my goals and my dreams and my aspirations. Okay. I said it right. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Okay. So I'm going to get clear on, my goals, my aspirations. I'm going to get clear. You know what? Because that's going to do something for me. That means that when I say something, I'm saying it from an aligned place, from a divine place. And that also means that whatever happens, I can accept it. Okay, I can accept it. So in this case of my sister, she ended up passing away. And when I tell you, that was the most surreal peace beyond understanding that I had ever experienced, like she had made peace with it. We had all, made peace with it, but I do think it was also alignment. It was also a part of this that we understood that was out of our hands. So the part that was in our hands, okay, God, take care of us, the part that we can control, and the part that we can't control, make sure that you carry us through that. And so when we're writing this vision and we're writing this goal and we're seizing control of our life, you guys, we have to realize that there's still a part of this aspect of this goal that's out of my hand, right? But there is a part of this that I have full control in, and that's my belief. What am I believing for? And if I'm believing that I'm going to be okay, that everything is working for my good, even when it's not looking at it, I'm showing up differently in life. Okay, I'm showing up differently in life because listen, the same spirit that spoke the vision is the one who will sustain it. All right. But God won't override what you refuse to believe. Okay. God will not override what you refuse to believe. Your faith activates flow, and your belief sets the boundaries, you guys. Your faith is the thing that activates your flow, and then your belief it sets the boundaries. All right. So I want you to know that there is an aspect of our life that we have no control over, but there is definitely an aspect of our life that we can seize control over with a plan, you guys. When we start to prioritize our values, when we start to understand laws, right, these universal laws, and start to align with those, right, and really start to sit in and accept and start to be in receptive mode and become the person that God created us to be. My thoughts about these verses, that these verses, when stripped of shame and hierarchy, they're just very empowering. They are very empowering. They really remind us that we are co-creators, right? In our experience, that we are energetic beings who reflect what we believe, and that we are safe to expand our faith and internal story without guilt, you guys. Okay. Most of us don't need another sermon, right? We just need permission to trust God's voice, that voice that was within us, right? That is within us, that sounds like clarity, conviction, and compassion. All right. So I want to ask you, what vision would you write if you believe it was already yours? If you believe that it was already yours, you guys. All right. So how do we put this in practice? So we're gonna write down 3 beliefs. Write down 3 beliefs. Let me see. Our action steps is to write down 3 beliefs that no longer serve you. All right. And then we're going to replace one of those beliefs with one, replace each one of those beliefs rooted in truth, not fear. Okay. And then you're going to write down a sentence describing your vision in present tense. Okay. In present tense. I'm going to show this to you. So you want to write down 3 beliefs that no longer serve your vision. You want to place each one of those with a belief rooted in truth, right? Not fear. And then write down 1 to 2 sentences describing that vision in present tense. Okay. And then for our journal prompt today, I want you to actually to do this. So for our journal prompt, I want you to change. What would you change if you? This is your journal prompt. What would I change if I believe I was fully supported in building this vision? And the affirmation for today: I am worthy of a vision that reflects my values, not my fears. Okay. So you can screenshot this for today just to remind yourself of this. I am worthy of a vision that reflects my values, not my fears. And then our intention for today, just sending this intention out over the rest of your day, is that today I align my beliefs with my blueprint. I align my beliefs with my blueprint. And then the bonus, I want you to share one new belief aloud. Okay. So out loud, I want you to share one new belief aloud. And where is it? Bonus belief. So share one belief aloud or on a paper every morning this week. All right. Every morning this week. Anchor it in your body. Speak it with intention. All right. And then you know that we end the show with a call, a challenge, and a charge. And so today's call, challenge, and charge is uh, what belief are you leaving behind? All right, that's the call. The challenge is what vision will you write this week? And then the charge, listen, go shape your life, speak your future, believe like it already happened. Believe like it already happened. Okay. Believe like it already happened. Oh, it didn't. That's not the one. Let me see. I'm sorry, you guys. Believe like it already happened. I want to put this call charge up. So today's call. All right, there we go. So, what belief are you leaving behind? What vision will you write for this week? And then go shape your life, speak your future, believe like it already happened. Listen, if this session really resonated with you and you're walking away with insight today, you already know what to do. Drop a fire in the chat for me. Drop a fire in the chat for me. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited. And if this session woke something up in you, you already know this is exactly the type of insight that we explore in our weekly coaching labs, where we don't just reflect, we reshape, right? The growth membership gives you the tools and structure, right? Because your growth deserves more than just a moment. It deserves a container, you guys. So join Project Life, where we turn theory into practice, where we build emotional muscle and discipline, and where you stop feeling stuck and start feeling supported, you guys. And you can join for the remainder of this month for $47. All right. Remember, if you can shape it in your mind, you guys, you can have it in your life. I love you. I love you. I love you. Tomorrow we'll be talking about triggers. And that law that we're talking about tomorrow is the law of expansion. Okay, the law of expansion. So I'm excited to talk have that conversation. I love you till our next life lesson. Till later.